What's up, guys? Hope you have a fantastic week so far. Once again, we have our Warhammer video. I saw this one; it's pretty cool. It was a little more in-depth look and 3D documentary about Tyranid invasion. And since I, don't know much about Tyranids, I don't think many people really do, except for the really big fans of Warhammer. I thought it'd be kind of cool to see more of a, visual representation of a Tyranid invasion. Because we hear about it all the time. We see pictures of it and stuff, but um, I prefer seeing a on hand visual representation of what it really is, and I'm excited to look at this because the video's blown up. It looks great. So I look forward to it. Like always, please check out the original video in the description. Show them some love. If you guys enjoy the content and get your reactions, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get to it.
The Tyranids, the Great Devourers, are among the greatest threats to humanity and to the entire galaxy as a whole.
That's only a fragment, man.
This reputation is more than well earned by the ultimate adaptive race, whose sole purpose exists to consume all in its path.
Look at that shit, bro. And they only got las guns, man. Gotta feel bad for him, bro. You gotta feel bad for him, man. That would suck.
But, unlike their rivals, this capacity comes not from any cultural, economic, or technological advantage. Rather, it is derived purely from their unparalleled evolutionary fluidity, which allows them to spawn a stunning diversity and quantity of bioforms with which to overcome any foe. These range from the smallest of microbial spores to the largest of multi-kilometer spacefaring hive ships. In this series, we shall cover the diverse specimens which have been catalogued by the Magos Biologus, including the Vanguard, Assault, Command, and Support organisms.
Looks so cool, bro.
We will then bring their full might to bear in never-before-seen simulations of a planetary invasion, featuring millions of models in detailed 3D environments. This is the true size of a Tyranid invasion.
So I hope you guys are enjoying this content as much as I have been. It turns out the True Size series and 40K is just a match made in heaven. It's got an art production team super excited. They're already working on some future episodes.
Oh, that's so
we have
cool,
40K
man.
on the mind, and I've got 40K in the pocket because I've been
As someone who's fallen into the realm of 40K, you can't escape. This guy's done, man. He's toast.
playing a lot of Warhammer 40K Tactics.
He's one of us.
Which is today's sponsor.
One of
now,
us.
I've actually been playing to support tactical matter. Everyone's urgent campaign. By
The
Alright, there we
only
go.
being capable of understanding
Look at
this
that shit, bro.
Chimerian
Looks so
behemoth
good, man.
is the hive mind itself, an entity of equally unfathomable complexity, derived from the shared consciousness of trillions upon trillions of Tyranids spread out across the galaxy and beyond. Yet that is not to say that a study of the Tyranids lays beyond our grasp. After all, vast quantities of data have been collected since their first clash with humanity in the year of 741 of the 41st millennium. This report, for instance, outlines some of the broad evolutionary branches of the swarm which were identified early on by Imperial forces. While its observations still broadly hold true, the Tyranids have not ceased to evolve, especially as each hive fleet plunges ever deeper into the galaxy, adapting independently as they go. As such, ever-increasing numbers of researchers and scribes have been required to document the nature of this growing threat to the Imperium. But we shall leave such exhaustive explanations to the likes of Luton. With this disclaimer in mind, let us now reconstruct a more digestible model of a simpler, theoretical Tyranid army.
It's
As
still
a preview
massive.
of where we are headed, this is what a swarm looks like. Millions of creatures spanning dozens of species and their countless variants, bearing down upon outnumbered and outgunned defenders. But to get there, we will first have to familiarize ourselves with the Tyranid soldiers on an individual level, as they might be encountered during the major phases of an invasion. The first phase will be one of reconnaissance. Here, potential victim worlds will be targeted by Vanguard troops, which may be inserted via drone ship or smuggled in aboard enemy vessels, who may unwittingly act as carriers in the process of fleeing other infected zones. But regardless of how they got there, all such Vanguard bioforms will share evolutionary traits that favor stealth and independence. Common species include lictors, leapers, and gene stealers. Lictors are lone hunters who seem to deploy on planets one at a time.
Massive, bro.
While some may doubt the threat posed by a single organism, they are not to be underestimated. Standing 2 to 3 meters tall with long mantis-like claws, lictors have the speed, strength, and dexterity to outmaneuver prey or pursuer across almost any terrain. In spite of their size, they manage to pass virtually undetected thanks to a range of adaptations, including noise-reducing hoofs, body heat dampeners, and chameleonic scales, which can shift tone and texture to blend in with any environment. Furthermore, lictors may leverage bladders of super nutritious fluid to remain immobile for days on end, awaiting the perfect opportunity to strike or relocate. In this way will they begin to reconnoiter a victim planet, collecting information about its resources, flora, and fauna, until such data may be relayed back to the Hive fleet. But perhaps most troubling of all is the indication that lictors are capable of absorbing the memories of their victims and may even inherit the experiences of all other slain members of its species.
That's actually horrifying.
Such a creature would represent a military asset of incredible strategic value, which must be rooted out at all costs. A related Vanguard organism is the Tyranid leaper.
Looks more
These are
armored.
often pack hunters who might deploy to a planet in the dozens or hundreds at a time. Leapers trade some of the hyper-specialized traits of the lictor for more aggressive combat capabilities.
You can just look at it.
As such, while reconnaissance is still one of their primary functions, they tend to focus on crippling the eyes, ears, and vital organs of an enemy force. And finally, we have the gene stealer. Such creatures are smaller and weaker than their Vanguard brethren. Yet they should not be underestimated. After all, gene stealers are still larger, stronger, and far more long-lived than your average human. But what makes them most frightening is their evolutionary niche as infiltrators.
Small stature.
This process begins with the spawning of a pure
Nasty looking,
strain
though.
gene stealer within the Hive fleet. Upon reaching a target population, victims will be abducted and implanted with an embryonic organism, which begins to both alter the genes of its host and bind its will to the Tyranids. In this way, a hybridized gene stealer is created, and a small brood can develop in the shadows. Over time, future generations of hybrids will become ever more numerous and indistinguishable from their host population. Underground gene stealer cults may now begin to creep their way up the social structure, further infiltrating society at large. Should this process prove successful, the gene stealers will psychically summon their Hive fleet. With the dinner bell rung, they will then bide their time, ready to burst forth behind enemy lines at the opportune moment. In combination, these various Vanguard forces can wreak havoc on a target's defenses. Active measures will be necessary to detect and keep these Tyranids in check. Though the task will be great, it is achievable by efficient counter-infiltration operations. What proves far more daunting, however, is dealing with the assault forces which come next.
So guys, YouTube ad. Let's continue.
The first sign of an incoming invasion will be the so-called shadow in the warp, a vast psychic emanation of the hive mind which smothers entire star systems, disrupting all forms of warp travel and communication. Those who fall under its shadow will be cut off, unable to call for help or to flee. The Tyranid fleet, now having isolated its prey, will begin the assault phase of its invasion. The nature of horrors which will soon begin raining down upon the defenders varies greatly. The hive mind, after all, will be acting upon the information gathered from its Vanguard forces and can dynamically biomanufacture the exact army it believes will most effectively achieve the task at hand. It would be a fool's errand to attempt to catalogue the endless evolutionary permutations of this bestiary. Thus, we will have to be satisfied with a broad overview of the more common Tyranid bioforms.
This is a good refresher.
The first major category of assault phase Tyranids will be the spores.
Look how massive that thing is, bro.
These range in size and function. On one end of the spectrum are the microscopic spores. These may be unleashed in their trillions upon a planet, drifting down as great clouds upon the land. Here, they may begin slowly altering the planet's biosphere, rendering it more hostile to the natives and welcoming to the invaders. Such swarms may also target machinery, munitions, and supplies to gradually erode a target's logistics system. For more direct damage, larger spore mines will be spawned. These are bulbous, gas-filled creatures who float across the battlefield. When their feelers sense targets in close proximity, they will detonate their payload.
Jeez.
This may include poison, bioacid, or shrapnel variants, which can tear apart infantry and armored units, unfortunate enough to be caught in their
It's like a living little bomb, dude.
A related variant is the mucilid spore. These are capable of maintaining higher altitudes and moving at greater speeds, which enables them to act as surprisingly effective anti-air mines. While such spores may not be threatening on their own, vast minefields capable of guided propulsion and rudimentary intelligence can be quite deadly at the tactical level and will certainly complicate the battlefield situation at a strategic level.
Wow.
On the larger end of the spore spectrum exist the all-important ship-to-surface organisms. Several variants of these 10 to 30 meter living drop pods exist, including mycetic spores, tyrannocytes, and sporocysts. All share rather similar morphologies that feature huge chitinous shells, which help withstand the stresses of entry, as well as organic flaps, which deploys air brakes to slow the pod down just enough for a controlled crash landing.
I didn't know they're this much in depth, dude. This is crazy.
At this point, the bioforms within, be it a few dozen human-sized creatures or a singular multi-story beast, will spill forth onto the battlefield. With this step accomplished, mycetic spores will end their life cycle. However, the more biologically complex tyrannocytes and sporocysts have yet another purpose to serve. The former now begins filling with gas and will soon be airborne once more, raining death upon nearby enemies with ranged biocannonry. Sporocysts, on the other hand, will burrow further into the ground, where they can then use their numerous organic chimneys to begin pumping out endless waves of smaller spore forms. Having thus covered the major types of spores, we can move on to another branch of the Tyranid assault species, the Gaunt genus.
These ones I'm more aware of.
Standing roughly 1.3 meters tall and 2.5 meters long, Gaunts are the basic combat unit of the Tyranid swarm. They are cheap and expendable, but with enough numbers and flexibility to overcome most defenses. Many variants exist, but we will once more have to restrict ourselves to just a few, namely the Hormogaunts, Termagants, and Gargoyles. Hormogaunts are the close combat specialists,
it's like a raptor,
wielding massive, scythed talons. They run at incredible speeds with the agility to bound over obstacles and turn on a dime in pursuit of their prey. This is done with relentless, frenzied determination, as their evolutionary metabolism drives them to kill, feast, and kill without pause. Pain will not stop them, nor will most small arms fire, as heavy carapace and multi-organ redundancy keeps them moving whilst sustaining all but the most crippling of damage.
That's insane, bro.
Yet,
That's the basic
there is a
infantry, which is
cost
just
for such
ridiculous.
energetic traits. Hormagaunts burn out extremely quickly, with lifespans measured in the days or even hours. This is compensated for by an ability to hibernate during periods of inactivity, as well as the unique ability to lay eggs and reproduce outside the confines of the hive fleet or a spawning pool.
That's awful.
As a result, so long as food is available, a Hormagaunt infestation will multiply exponentially. Thus, a small pack aboard a single drop pod, which manages to break through to the surface of a planet, can quickly swell into a group in the hundreds or a horde in the thousands if left unchecked.
Jeez.
Such numbers would tax the command and control systems of most armies. However, Tyranid evolution has accounted for this, and Hormagaunts will instinctively attack the nearest target in swarms with little direction necessary from the hive mind. This makes them highly effective fire and forget weapons. On the flip side though, this is also their greatest weakness, as brute force melee tactics can result in high casualties against well-prepared positions. It is for this reason that other Gaunt variants exist. The Termagant, for instance, uses the base Hormagaunt morphology, but replaces its talons with ranged weapons. Yet this is not as simple a swap as for most armies, given that such biomechanical guns are actually symbiotic creatures, which have effectively fused with their hosts during the spawning process.
Interesting.
Many terrifying types exist. The Spine Fist is a close-range, twin-linked gun which fires poisonous spines via pressurized air. The Strangle Web is a slightly longer ranged spread-fire weapon which sprays sticky mucus-like strands to ensnare and constrict its targets. The Flesh Borer, meanwhile, is a mid-range gun that launches living beetles at its target.
What the fuck?
Upon impact, these will use rending teeth and digestive enzymes to dig through armor, bone, and flesh alike.
Huh?
The Devourer is also a mid-range weapon with a living payload, but one which unleashes salvos of fleshworms
That's
at a
just
time.
the creativity in the Warhammer universe never ceases to amaze me. Just how creative all this is, from the armies to the universe to the political side to the religious side, just the simple weapons. I mean, it is just truly amazing.
These will either shatter
So
in
cool.
an acid splash upon impact or survive to burrow into the victim's exposed weak points. And finally, spike rifles are longer range, precision
rifle.
weapons which fire razor-sharp, barbed spikes
That's
that kill
dope.
with impact damage, or the fast-acting toxin which infects open wounds.
It's like a needle rifle almost. If you guys played Halo.
Each of these
you
biomechanical
know, you know.
guns on their own is terrifying enough, but when fired en masse from swarms of termagants, the resulting
Yeah.
carnage is unlike any seen from conventional weaponry. And yet, there is one more dimension we are missing.
The specialized troops? Oh no, we're not there
Gaunt
yet.
variants
Grab
also
this one.
exist which have taken to the air. These so-called gargoyles are effectively termagants with wings, albeit with slightly smaller bodies and atrophied lower legs to improve their flight characteristics. Individually, such beasts are said to be more skittish than their peers, preferring to skirmish. However, when they assemble in vast clouds to strike a target from all directions, the behavior of the group as a whole is anything but relentless. Yet more Gaunt variants and specialist bioforms exist to fill the evolving needs of a Tyranid army on the assault. For now, however, we will move on to other species which serve as important pillars to the greater operation of the invasion force. One such
I know
specimen
about these guys.
is the Ripper.
Yeah.
These half-meter-long, maggot-like creatures
Ugh.
have evolved with a singular purpose: to consume biological material.
They're nasty though,
Following
bro.
close behind assault troops, they scour the battlefield to devour fallen friend and foe alike. Over the course of an invasion, great swarms will pick clean the land, ingesting all the biological material in their path before throwing their bloated bodies into reclamation pools for easy digestion and reabsorption by the hive fleet.
What the hell?
But the coordinated activities of all such assault forces would not be possible without the warrior class.
So
Standing
dope-looking,
about
dude.
5 meters tall, these hulking bioforms are protected by thick carapaces and boast powerful limbs capable of wielding both melee and ranged weapons. The former includes scything talons, bone swords, and lash whips, while the latter includes equivalent or heavier variants of the Gaunt weapons we previously mentioned. All of this makes such creatures formidable battlefield soldiers. Yet what makes them truly invaluable assets in the swarm ecosystem
Intelligence?
is their role as Tyranid officers.
Okay.
To some extent, they function similarly to traditional leaders, assessing battlefield situations and directing surrounding forces. But where they differ is in their ability to communicate with their kin, not through language, but by a synaptic form of telepathy through which they relay and channel the will of the hive mind. In this way are the efforts of lesser creatures brought into unison. Should this link be severed, however, they will revert back to their base biological pre-programming until the synaptic connection is re-established. Thus, to preserve this all-important hub of command and control, multiple Tyranid warriors can often be found in clusters across a battlefield, surrounded by Gaunts with an instinctive drive to
Organize the
defend them
chaos.
at all costs. For additional redundancy, other bioforms are also capable of stepping in as synaptic amplifiers. One notable example is the zoanthrope. Evidence points to this species
What
having
is that
been
thing,
developed
dude?
as a hybridized form of the warrior species mixed with Eldar DNA.
Oh, shit.
This has granted them impressive psychic abilities with which
Okay.
to not only convey the will of the hive mind, but to unleash powerful defensive and offensive capabilities.
All right, then. Was
Having
not
thus
expecting to see all
reviewed the
DNA,
basic
dude. That's
combat forms
crazy.
of a Tyranid swarm, let us now explore what a first wave assault may look like.
This would be good.
The situation is as follows. Several months ago, infiltration bioforms were seeded onto a fringe Imperial world. These have gone unnoticed by the understaffed and inexperienced garrison forces. As this hidden threat festers, the Vanguard of the Hive fleet has reached the planetary system. Some resistance is given, but the unprepared orbital defenses
chance, bro.
are quickly swept aside. The invaders now reach the atmosphere. Armed with intel from their Vanguard forces, they now set about targeting the most vulnerable ground positions. One of the many initial objectives is this outpost of the Imperium. It stands just a few dozen kilometers out from the local garrison fortress, housing important sensor and communication networks. It serves as a
There's
valuable
no
node
chance.
in the region's defensive network. This infrastructure is defended by bunkers and entrenchments which bristle with men, vehicles, and turrets. Around them begins to fall the first rains of what will soon be a deluge of Tyranid invaders.
Dude. Bet you look up, you see
Already,
this shit, bro.
clouds of anti-aircraft nucleid spores drift into position above launch
Wow.
pads, while anti-vehicle and anti-personnel mines begin to choke off the lines of retreat and reinforcement. As the defenders rush to man the guns, they find many of their systems sluggish or impaired on account of some undiagnosed growth taking hold of the equipment. To make matters worse, chaos breaks out to the rear. Gene Stealer cultists,
Oh,
aided
shit.
by other Vanguard forces, have apparently managed to ambush one of the supply columns, crippling this critical source of reinforcements, fuel, and munitions. Meanwhile, Xenos dropships have begun to land in the plains ahead, though some fall to bursts of anti-aircraft fire this barely makes a dent in their numbers. Soon, thousands of combat forms begin to spill forth.
Holy shit.
The raptor-like hordes of
Gosh.
Formagants
Just
sprint
that
ahead
small
of the
outpost, dude.
instinctually
RAP, man.
blitzing the nearest source of incoming fire.
Yikes.
The ground pounds with the beat of their killer determination. Behind them, the Tyranid warriors now pulse orders across the Synaptic network, marshalling the hordes of termagants and gargoyles who have been amassing. Soon, these two plunge across the open ground, taking flanking routes towards
Got
the
no
defenders.
chance, bro.
Behind them surge writhing packs of rippers, eagerly anticipating their first meal. From the perspective of the defenders, the landscape appears to shimmer from the seemingly endless swarm. The outpost fires on all fronts at this target-rich environment, but to no avail.
You gotta do shit.
It is as though they fire bullets at an incoming wave, each shot merely disappearing into the surging mass. There is no stopping this living tide. Across the region, the other outposts face similar oblivion. Vox channels crackle with the panicked shouts of officers and the terrified screams of guardsmen. The few who make it out alive beat a hasty retreat.
It wouldn't even
back to
matter.
the
You're
garrison forces.
retreating to die.
Here they will make their stand with the backing of far more formidable defenses. But the hive mind has yet to reveal its full hand. In our next episode, we will examine the larger bioforms, which will be deployed against such a hardened position as we continue to cover
The scale of
true
this is
size
wonderful,
of a
man.
Tyranid invasion. For now, you can head on over.
That video was amazing, man. I knew the scale of it was going to be crazy because it's Tyranids. You know, Tyranids. I mean, they're the genocidal bugs. But that just broke my expectations about the sheer size of it because I didn't even know about some of those. Like, I didn't know they can mix Eldar DNA and shit. Like, I knew they had it, but I know there was like a special like form and like a bio creature for that. You know, I didn't know about the mine creatures. The anti-air mines. Like, I didn't know about none of that. So this video was absolutely amazing, and I enjoyed it from start to finish. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. Again, please check them out in the description. If you guys enjoy my content, if you guys enjoy my reactions, please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Take it easy.